Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm a lawyer at the law offices of Cohen Decker Pex Blosh. We deal in immigration to Israel. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the 5 tips for getting legal status for a foreigner that's married or is a partner of an Israeli. First of all, it's important to know that if you're outside of Israel and you have a relationship or are in Israel and are married or living together with an Israeli, you can also get legal status in Israel. This process is done via the Israeli Minister of Interior called Misrad Hapnim, and about 3,000 couples start this process every year, but not everyone completes the process successfully. Today we're going to talk about the 5 tips to help you complete the gradual process successfully. Okay, so what is the first tip? The first tip is obvious, but it's stay together. Of course, we see many people start the process, but sometimes people break up. Like it happens in life, marriages or relationships can break up, and in this case, more than usual, it's very difficult. Remember, there's a lot of stress on every relationship, and especially in this case, maybe it's a problem of mentality, or maybe it's even more stress on the relationship due to the fact that the foreigner needs to get legal status in Israel. But over the 10 years that I've been dealing with immigration to Israel, I've seen many couples start the process and break up during the process and not complete it. So the first tip is stay together. Okay, now we're going to look at the second tip. The second tip for completing the gradual process successfully is be well organized. Maybe you're well organized naturally, this is great, but if you're not, like many people aren't, this is the time to start. Also, maybe it's a good idea to delegate this work to the partner that's better organized than the other one. But the first stage, getting legal status for the foreigner, is having all the documents in order. Whether it's translation of documents from abroad, or getting the authentication of the apostille stamp, or getting the notary public translations, and also collecting all the documents that show the authenticity of the relationship, all this requires preparing a well-organized file. Remember also that the clerks at the Israeli Ministry of Interior and it's easier for them to get files that are well organized. So if you want to succeed, you better have a good organized file. The third tip. So what's the third tip? You need to know each other very well. Every couple knows each other, but in this case, remember that you're going to sit in front of a clerk of the Ministry of Interior. Each couple sits at the beginning together, and then each person sits separately, and you're going to be asked a series of questions regarding the other person, whether it's dates of birth, names of family members, what you did last week. You need to really know each other very well. This is not something anybody else can help you, but if you don't, this is the time to start to get to know each other very well in order to successfully pass the interview at the Israeli Ministry of Interior. The fourth tip for completing the gradual process successfully and getting legal status for a foreign spouse of an Israeli is to be polite in dealing with the Israeli Ministry of Interior clerks, but at the same time, know your rights. Many times during this bureaucratic process, people tend to get frustrated. Sometimes there's a feeling that the clerks at the Ministry of Interior that are processing the file are giving too much problems. Remember that usually the clerk is just doing his or her job, but sometimes the requests of the clerk don't make sense, or there's really no possibility to get this sort of document they're asking. These cases, it's important to know your rights and to stand up for your rights. If the justice is on your side. So it's important to be patient and to try to comply with what you've been asked, but at the same time to be firm and to know what the law actually says. The fifth tip for completing the gradual process successfully, and this is the last tip, is to use professional help if needed. Now, there are about 3,000 couples that go through this process every year, and most of them don't use a lawyer and don't need a lawyer. But in certain cases, when you know in advance that there might be really problems, for example, illegal stay in Israel in the past, or any of the partners being married to a different person and, for example, not being able to dissolve the marriage, or even criminal background, any of these issues, it's really a good idea to use a lawyer from the beginning. Also, sometimes during the process, problems arise that it's really a good idea to use the professional help of a lawyer that has experience in immigration to Israel. So this is the fifth and last tip. Only if you need, use a lawyer. Sometimes people don't take a lawyer and try to do things their own, and things become even more difficult. So if you don't need a lawyer and you can go through the process on your own, obviously this is the best. But if you really need a lawyer, it's also very important to use a lawyer when you need one. Okay, thank you for listening. These were the 5 tips for completing the gradual process successfully at the Israeli Ministry of Interior. Thank you.